Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, today I want to talk about Delta versus Eda. Now if you guys have not seen the last chapter, Delta actually came back. One of the first things that I did actually talk about in my review. Now once Delta came back, Code essentially summoned Eda from that other dimension or wherever they're from, and of course brought her into the same room as Delta. Now at this given time, Delta seems like she's actually going to be trying to fight against Eda, mainly because of course they're on opposite sides of things. But this right here is a very interesting idea, and this right here is a very interesting concept, mainly because we're not completely sure how strong a character like Eida actually is. Now here's the thing, Eida and Damon were actually introduced into the series being characters that Jigen was actually afraid of, but we've never genuinely seen Eida actually fight. So this right here is going to be a very entertaining battle, man, because we already know how strong Delta is, and of course there's also the outside possibility that they of course made her a lot stronger than she was before, because before she was just made regularly, she was just made as a regular cyborg. Right now she was made with Code being the biggest and of course baddest villain in mind, and we also understand that there's also a very huge possibility that Code himself can also unlock his limiters. So Delta right now might be at an all-time strongest. Now Eda on the other hand, as I said, she was introduced with the already established cachet, but we have still not yet seen her actually in battle. And in fact, she even talked about her potentially being in battle, but it seemed a little bit fishy. Now here's the situation. She was essentially talking to Code and telling Code that, hey, if you're no longer useful to me or to us, we are going to dispose of you. Now specifically, Eda was talking about herself, including Damon. Now what we do understand is that Damon, he is about that life. Damon at this given moment might actually be the strongest character in Boruto, but just because Eda says her and also Damon can potentially dispose of Code, it makes me think that Eda alone isn't necessarily as confident in her actual battle skills. And not only that, during the first couple of chapters when Eda was actually introduced, she said that Damon was her actual knight, and also even called Code her knight, essentially meaning that her herself doesn't necessarily fight that much. Now of course we're going to find out in the next chapter. Now of course some people might actually ask the question, why would Jigen actually try to get her destroyed if he actually did feel like Eda wasn't necessarily strong enough to actually destroy him? The thing about Jigen is that he probably understood that Eda's abilities are extremely broken. What Eda is essentially able to do is have surveillance cameras in every single room, everywhere on the planet. She has clairvoyant abilities. So hypothetically, if Jigen actually did want to kind of lie to some of the Kata members, it probably wouldn't necessarily be that efficient if Eda's there essentially realizing exactly what Jigen wanted to lie about. For example, there was a time when Kawaki went missing from Jigen. This right here is essentially the vessel retrieval arc. Jigen essentially set up a task force for Kashin Koji, Amato, and of course the rest of the Kata organization to actually go find Kawaki. The reason why Jigen wants to do this was to actually figure out exactly who let Kawaki slip away. And now this right here was actually successful. Jigen found out exactly who was behind it, which was Kashin Koji and Amato. But hypothetically, if Eda was actually alive, Eda would have knew off of the bat that this right here was just a whole ploy to see exactly who turned on Jigen. And of course that right there would have fooled Jigen's whole entire plan. So of course having Eda alive would essentially mean that Jigen would probably have to tell the truth almost all of the times, or be extremely efficient in keeping that secret. And of course that right there would just be a headache, which would probably be why Jigen would probably want to get rid of a character like Eda. That right there, in my personal opinion, would definitely make a lot of sense. But also again, we're probably going to find out in the next chapter. Now if I were to give my predictions, I'd say that Eda has a bit of battle skills. I don't necessarily want to say it's on par with a character like Jigen. I think just flat out taijutsu, she's probably going to be slightly, I mean slightly below the level of Delta. But I honestly do believe it's just like a split second. It'll just need to be a split second for them to actually pull Damon through and of course have him enter the battle. Now at this given moment, Damon plus Eda would absolutely demolish everyone there. If this right here is actually the situation, and of course they actually do bring Damon through, the only possible way I could see them actually, trying to slip away or something like that is if Shikamaru is successfully able to place Damon under a shadow paralysis jutsu. Now Code already knows about Shikamaru's abilities because of course he was caught in a shadow paralysis jutsu a little bit earlier in the last chapter as well, so he may actually tell Damon what Shikamaru's abilities are. But specifically, if Shikamaru is able to detain Damon and of course have Delta plus Amato kind of worry about Code and Eida, I honestly do believe that they could defeat Code and Eida. Now here's where things really do get tricky, and of course a lot of you guys feel me on this. Naruto and Sasuke, they are on their way to the battle. I don't know specifically what this is going to mean in regards to us seeing them fight for the first time without their actual powers, but they are on their way to the battle. I want to make a specific video about Naruto and Sasuke's involvement because I think that a lot of people actually really do want to see them fight in this specific chapter right here. The reason why they don't necessarily want Naruto and Sasuke to actually barge in right now is because Shikamaru thinks that he has a lot of things under control. But hypothetically, if things really do break down, Naruto and Sasuke are going to be right outside the door waiting. In the last chapter, they essentially said, or Shikamaru specifically essentially said, don't necessarily inform a lot of people, just inform Naruto and Sasuke so they can actually head to the room themselves. If things really do devolve, one of my fears is going to be the fact that they're going to be in a huge disadvantage. Hypothetically, if things really do break down inside of that room, there's a high possibility that Code is going to immediately request Amato lift his limiters, and afterwards Code is going to have his limiters lifted. The first opponents that he's probably going to get to see is Naruto and Sasuke, and a lot of the times when the villain gets his power up, the number one thing that they want to do is of course show people how strong this villain is. And for Code, of course, coming right off of his limiters, if he packs up Naruto and Sasuke, it would not be far-fetched at all. I 1000% do not want to see Naruto and Sasuke, even though they are not the main characters. We all acknowledge this. I do not want them to be power-up fodder that a villain just gets to absolutely demolish and walk all over. That is just not what I'm trying to see. But if there is a situation in the next chapter where Naruto and Sasuke, they save the day and of course showcase their actual power, I would be absolutely ecstatic. But let me know what you guys think about this idea in the comment section below. Give me what you guys think. How strong do you guys think Eida is actually going to be? And also, who do you guys think would possibly win in a 1v1? Delta or Eida? Let me know what you guys think. It's been your boy Baara, and we out.
It's a knife.